So when I start acting crazy, check me, let me know. And then the time comes and then we say, sis, you remember you said that, da, da, da. And now they're deflecting and they're acting like you're disturbing them. You do it too. You have to be humble because guess what? You tried to do it yourself already and it didn't work. You need help. You actually need help. Discount your ability to pinpoint your why, your ability to connect your why to something that's happening in today's reality, and then the speed at which you're able to do that. Before it's even happening, you are already decided that you can't do anything new. That's gonna stop you from moving forward. Hi guys, today I want to talk about when it feels like you're not growing, when it feels like you're not changing, you're not learning, and the knowledge and the tools that you've gained, you're not able to put into practice. Now, I can appreciate how frustrating that must feel, but sis, I promise you, if you have been doing the work, you have grown. It might be difficult to see, especially when you feel like you're stumbling in the same places, but I'm going to share some ways in which I assess the progress that I've made. I also want to share with you some ways in which you can prepare for the next opportunity to exercise the muscles in the areas that you want to see growth. Guys, I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. I'm so excited to be finding my people. The video I did about, identifying your red flags has gotten the most views and has brought the most questions my way. And I feel like it just means that the sisters are ready to grow. They're ready to change. They're ready to flourish. And I'm here for it. I'm excited. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I'll put the link up in one of the corners. Some of the themes in there ties into what I'm going to share today. I'm sure we all remember when we saw an auntie that we haven't seen in a very long time, and all she wanted to do was poke and prod us and tell us about how much we've grown in all the different ways. And I know that some of us have become that auntie, because I'm definitely one of them. When I haven't seen someone's child in a long time, it's just so shocking to me how much progress and how much growth has happened in my absence. It's almost like you forget that time doesn't stand still in other people's worlds, right? But that is exactly the reality of growth. So my friends who are the parents of those children are not seeing the growth in a daily sense. But because I'm removed and I haven't seen them for weeks or months, when I do see them, I see all of the growth that has taken place in a bigger span of time. And I think that's the reality with all types of growth. It is gradual, it is slow, it might be difficult to see with the naked eye in small increments, but actually when you take a step back and you look at the before and after, then you can appreciate the major change that has taken place. So even as I share the ways in which I assess my progress, I want you to keep that at the back of your mind, that if you go back 10 years or 5 years and look at who you are now, you're more likely to be able to see the progress that you've made. So the first way I can tell that I've grown is the fact that I can get to the why of why I'm thinking, feeling, or doing something much quicker. So at the start of my journey, I wouldn't have been able to understand or articulate the whys underneath. Now I feel like I can do that within minutes, within hours. At the start of your journey, it might feel like there is a distant reality that you are unable to tap into to even get into the crux of your motivations and what these feelings or these thoughts or these actions are tied to. And as time goes on, when you continue the journey of self-awareness, you can get to a point where, something happens and it could take you a few weeks to figure out what was going on. As you go along in the journey, it might take you a week or a couple of days to figure out what was going on. And then you get to a point where within the same day, within hours, even in minutes, you can figure out what something is tied into and why you're thinking, feeling, or doing that thing. So if you now know your whys, you have grown. If you know your whys and you're able to connect something that is happening live and direct to your whys, you've grown. If you're able to do that quicker and quicker and quicker, you've grown. You've grown because you've done the background work. You've done tons and tons and tons of it. So don't discount that. Don't discount your ability to pinpoint your why, your ability to connect your why to something that's happening in today's reality, and then the speed at which you're able to do that. The second way in which I can tell that I've grown is that I don't see myself as a fixed person. So there would have been a point in my journey where a lot of the things that I struggled with, I actually had a mental block where I believed that this is just how I am. Now, if you feel like this is just how you are, there's no motivation to explore the whys, or you might even have explored the whys, but just feel like this is insurmountable. Like you don't even know where you would begin or how you would begin to tackle this. But at this point in my journey, I've learned so much about this space of emotional growth and healing, and discovered something called neuroplasticity, which is basically the brain's ability to adapt and change. So now when I think of myself, no matter how difficult the mental block is, no matter how big and insurmountable the challenge feels, fundamentally, I believe that I am a person capable of change. And that is a big deal, because that would definitely bring about a sense of autonomy and responsibility and hope. So no matter how bad the situation is or how big a mistake I make, I have hope that I can behave, think, feel differently in the future. All I have to do is figure out the steps that I need to take. So if you have gone from someone who thinks this is just how I am, this is just how it's going to be, to actually there's hope for change and there's room for change and there's something I can do about this, you have grown. The third way in which I assess my progress is the gap between stimulus and response. So what I mean by that is the gap, literally the time gap between when something happens or when I feel something and when I respond to it. So for different things, it will take different amounts of time. And I think this also ties into my second point, because the reason something will feel insurmountable is because there barely exists a gap, or at least you can't feel the bit in between stimulus and response where you have a choice and you have an option as to what you do next. It literally feels like it goes straight from stimulus to response and there's nothing in between. Sometimes you might experience emotional flooding where literally like you're not even there, right? Like your nervous system has kicked in, your protective mechanisms have kicked in, and you are literally on autopilot. So in reality, if you are able to go from something happening or feeling something to leaving a minute gap, or a 5-minute gap, or an hour gap, or maybe I won't respond today and actually I'll sleep on it. These are all ways in which you have grown. These are all ways in which you are growing. So there's certain things now for me that would have really tipped me over the edge. And I couldn't even imagine not doing something immediately, not responding immediately. And now for those same things, I could sleep on it for a day. I could sleep on it for a week. I know that the emotions, the height of the emotions are going to come down with time, and I'm going to get clarity to be able to think and decide what I want to do next. And obviously I know this isn't possible for everything, right? But I'm just talking about the things where there is actually room. And so, yeah, I feel like knowing that And having experience that the height of the emotion usually comes down as time goes on, I've gotten used to and gotten better at letting the emotions wash over me. And what I mean by that is literally just like, do nothing. Don't try to fix. Don't try to judge the emotions or assess them or pull them apart. Just let them pass through almost and feel what you're feeling. And then from a place of clarity and from a place of being emotionally regulated, then decide how I want to respond. The fourth way in which I know I have grown is that I am now able to take ownership. So when things go wrong or when something's happening and I'm to blame, I feel like I have more capacity to own what is mine. I am not always blaming people. I am not always blaming even God. I feel like there definitely was a phase in my life where actually things that I should have been taking responsibility for, it was just easier to, point the finger at God and wonder what he did and why he watched that happen and why he let that happen without taking responsibility for actually the action that I took first that caused certain things to happen and the snowball effect to take place. And a lot of these points are tied to each other, but I feel like this one is strongly tied to my next point, which is the ability to have self-compassion. And I think the reason it was easier to blame other people or God or anything else apart from take responsibility is because at the time, ownership for me had a strong association with self-criticism and there was no grace available. So I would rather not take the blame, because if I take the blame, then actually I go down this spiral of self-criticism and there was no balance. There was no, yes, I've done this, but that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. Yes, I've done this, but that doesn't mean that I'm the worst and I'm rubbish and I'm, all those kind of things. I didn't know how to handle being in the wrong, yet being compassionate and gracious towards myself. So I've kind of mixed those two together there. But the fourth point was being able to take ownership. If you find that you're no longer just blaming everybody else and what they're doing, and actually you're able to say, this was my part in it, then you've grown. And also, if you are used to self-criticism and self-bashing, and that was pretty much the only way in which you knew how to take ownership, and you're now not doing that, and actually you're able to say, yes, I did that thing wrong. I feel so bad. So the feelings will still be there, but I can manage those feelings and they don't actually overwhelm me and take me into a dark place. So sis, if any of those apply to you in any measure, you have grown. Yes, I know you made the same mistake again last week. I know. I know. But that doesn't negate the fact that you've grown. That doesn't change the fact that you have come such a long way and you are still committed to the journey. And so you're going somewhere. It's the standing still that would be the problem. It's the thinking that, I am unable to see change in a particular area. That would be the problem. But as long as you're on the moving train, sis, that is worth celebrating. I'll take it. Any day, I'll take it. So you should too. Okay, now for ways in which you can prepare for the next opportunity to exercise the muscles in the areas that you want to see growth. So you're into your introspection and you've gone to therapy and you know a lot of your whys, but you feel like certain things still haven't changed. You may be right. I'm not even going to deny that that might be the case, but there will be soon, there always is, another opportunity to see change in this area. Now, there are ways in which you can prepare for that before it arrives. So I'm going to share some of them with you that are really helpful for me, even as I'm already thinking about certain things when they come around again, what I'm going to do differently. So the first thing is to prepare. And what I mean by that is to think about the last time and glean all you can from it. So when you think about the last time, you will definitely be able to identify the gaps and the areas in which it still felt like the stretch was too much for you to handle. It was still too difficult for you to do something differently. We want to unpack that. We want to go deeper into that. And as an example, I was talking about actually relationships with a friend yesterday. And I remember saying to her that, when I think about relationships actually and the ways in which I struggle, it's one thing to think about the ways in which I personally struggle and to know my whys and to know my gaps and to know my, areas of improvement. But actually what was really helpful for me was digging deeper than my own personal experience. So when I was thinking about relationships, I was thinking not just about myself and my personal experiences, but I started thinking about my family. I started thinking about my culture. I started thinking about the world at large and all the stories and the narratives that women have been told and taught about relationships. And it was helpful to see, not just from a personal perspective, but to zoom out and to see the magnitude of the mindset shift or the beliefs that I was trying to overcome that weren't just about Shakira and the way Shakira is going about things. It was actually about what Shakira has been taught fundamentally, what she learned in formative years about love and relationships from media, from music, from movies, from all the things, right? Beyond that, then going into, the culture, and then beyond that, going into specifically my family, and then coming back to the personal. So when I say prepare, it could look like many different things, but even just having the mindset that, this thing is going to come around again. And actually, I will get an opportunity to do something different. So where were my gaps last time? And how do I fill them? What is the thing that I hadn't addressed? What is the hole that still needs to be filled? And how do I go about addressing and filling them? So the second way to prepare is to start to counteract that thought that tells you that it's going to happen again. Now, the reason you would have that thought is because you genuinely are not sure that you are actually in control. You genuinely are not sure that you could do something different. You have done the same thing for as long as you can remember, and you cannot imagine things being any different. That needs to be combated, sis. You're not going anywhere without dealing with that first. Do you think, can you see it possible to do something different? Because if you can't, that is actually where the majority of the work needs to take place. Before it's even happening, you are already decided that you can't do anything new. That's going to stop you from moving forward. So that might be the one thing that you focus on within this waiting period. Just the mentality, the mental block that tells you that you're not going to be in control and it's just going to happen again. You also have to believe that the same way in which you have chosen to do the same thing in previous situations is the same way that you can choose to do something different. So for some reason, your brain is telling you that when you did it last time, you weren't actually choosing. And so next time you also won't be able to choose. But the reality is that you are choosing. You are choosing. We need to debunk this idea that you're not choosing. You are. It might be happening while your nervous system is in overdrive. It might be happening quicker than you can even blink, but you are choosing. If you don't believe that you're choosing, then there is no hope to feel like, okay, well, today I chose A and tomorrow I can choose B. Because actually, if A happens inevitably, then what choice do you actually have, right? So believing that you have a choice, no matter how much it feels like this really isn't a choice, and if I had a choice, I wouldn't choose this. If you don't put it in the category of choice, then you have no You have no ammunition, as it were. So you have to tell yourself, this is not happening to me. I am letting this happen. No matter how difficult it is to accept that, that really is the power. That is what's going to give you the power when you do decide and when you are able to do something different. So the third tip, and this is definitely one of the most important ones, is to prepare to be uncomfortable. If you want to be in that situation again and do something different, you are going to have to go through discomfort. If you don't want to be uncomfortable, if you're not open to the idea of not feeling good, then change is not going to come. Because whether it's good change or bad change, all change requires something different to happen. And something different happening usually feels uncomfortable. So before you even get there, you already know now, if you decide today that you don't want to feel uncomfortable, then we don't even have to wait for the thing to come. I can already tell you that you're going to do the same thing, right? So without preparing your mind and your heart and everything in you to be willing to experience discomfort, nothing is going to change. So you need to commit. We need to commit to being uncomfortable. I am willing to be uncomfortable. I want to see something different happen. So I am willing to be uncomfortable. So the last way to prepare is to prepare your community. I cannot emphasize enough how much community is going to be a big part of your change. Doing something that's uncomfortable, doing something that's different is not going to be easy. You absolutely want to enlist help. And there is everything to gain from bringing people alongside you who know you, who love you, who want to see you grow, and asking them for their help in advance. Because we already know, like we said, something else will come up. So for me, something that trumps me knowing my whys is people in my community knowing my whys, right? So you need to have people in your life who know you better than you know yourself. You need to have people who you can tell the real. They already know what happened last time and the time before that. And you're going to them and saying, I want next time to be different, right? And I need your help. And this comes with allowing yourself to be checked, right? So the people that you're likely doing most of life with right now are your friends. And sometimes it might feel like, well, I'm grown and, we're the same age, or my friends are only a little bit older, a little bit younger. None of that matters where growth is concerned. Like, that is not even important. You are not too grown. You're not. I know it feels like it, but you are not too grown. So you have to be humble, because guess what? You've tried to do it yourself already and it didn't work. You need help. You actually need help. And so enlist the people that you know are invested in seeing you flourish and are happy, willing to be offended by even you, the person that said, oh, I'm happy for you to check me, to then start acting funny when the time comes, right? And I've seen that happen so much. A friend would say to me like, oh, well, next time this happens, like, this is what I want to achieve. So when I start acting crazy, check me, let me know. And then the time comes and then we say, sis, you remember you said that, da, da, da. And now they're deflecting and they're acting like you're disturbing them. You do it too. You do it too, right? So let's just be prepared for the point at which someone is going to check us and we're going to feel uncomfortable even by the fact that they know too much. They know too much and I just want to be left alone. But the reality is, it really is up to you at the end of the day. No matter how much people rally around you, you are ultimately responsible for your actions and your life. I can be on the other side of the phone, we can talk about it, but in reality, you're the only person who's with yourself 24 hours of a day. So there's only so much even friends and community can do. But I hope that that is encouraging. After everything I've said, you have it in you. You are able. God is on your side. You are on your side, and your people are on your side. So that's me for today. And as usual, I am praying for you as I pray for myself. I'm praying that we would be encouraged as we reflect on the journey that we've already been on and the progress that we've already made, and that we would find courage and strength to do something different and to see the change that we are so desperately wanting to see. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.